Have you ever had your homeschool day absolutely ruined? Stick around, that is what I'm talking about today. Hi, I'm Rebecca with the Parent Teacher Bridge, where you can find the ideas and resources you need to empower you to become your child's most influential teacher. And today I'm talking about what can you do when your homeschool day is ruined. Before we begin, please click like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment along the way. Now, a huge reason why some new homeschoolers may give up on the idea of homeschooling is that it doesn't live up to their expectations. They are struggling day after day, and they just feel like they're a failure because their day isn't going the way that they expected it to. One thing I can say is bad days will happen. That is a guarantee. Unplanned things happened. Here are just a few things that have happened to us to kind of turn our day upside down during our years of homeschooling. Unexpected grocery trip. Maybe you're out of something. Car trouble. Clothing dryer out of commission. Having to work on the dryer or go to the laundromat. A sick child or more than one sick child. No internet or power. Helping a family member in need. Now, what are some unplanned things that have happened on your homeschool day? Give a comment below and let us know how it worked out for you. Now, let me just say, all of those things listed can happen to anyone, and I try not to let those ruin my homeschool day. But if I have things planned, they often don't get done on days where these things happen. And to a new homeschooler, that can feel like their day is ruined. They had a picture in their mind. They were going to get everything done that they had listed in their planner, and that just didn't happen. So let's get into the tips. Number one, remember that the ultimate goal is learning. Ask yourself as your day is going by, as your unplanned day is going by, is my child learning through this experience? What did your child learn? Can you talk about it at the end of the day or maybe even the next day and reflect? What did you learn that day? Maybe it was a life skills kind of day. Maybe your child didn't learn the difference between an isosceles triangle and an equilateral triangle, but what your child learned, was it needed? I think that most of us would say the answer would be yes. Maybe the lesson was how to have a good attitude when things go wrong. Maybe the lesson was how to stay flexible when your plans are messed up for the day. Just because the learning wasn't planned or written down in the planner doesn't mean that it wasn't important. And if you need to, jot it down in your planner. When you didn't get something done because of something unplanned that happened, write down what did happen that day so that you can reflect on it and have a record of things that your child did learn or did get to experience that day. Number two, another option is to read. You can't go wrong reading, okay? This is a bonding time for you and your children. And sometimes I've had to have those days where we just take 20 minutes and we all sit down quietly and I read a book. I never regret that because it is that bonding time with my children. It's a time where I can check how my children are understanding what I'm reading to them. We can talk about figures of speech, vocabulary that comes up. We can talk about certain values. What are they learning from characters in a story? You can choose to read something that's make believe or something that's true. You can even read motivational books or the Bible. Count it as a values lesson. That time is never wasted. Now, if you come to recognize the true importance of reading in everyday life, you will walk away from that activity knowing that you did not have a wasted day, even though it didn't go exactly as you planned. Number three, do math. Now, some of my homeschool parent friends will say, you know what, when we have a messed up day where things didn't go as planned and we can't get everything done, we at least do math. Well, why is that? Well, math continues to build on itself. You might teach your child how to read, and then at some point they just end up being an independent reader. But math, it continues to build on itself and it gets harder and harder and longer with more multi step problems. So, for that reason, some parents choose not to skip math. They might have to adjust it and do fewer problems in one day because things didn't go as planned. But they choose to stay consistent with math and prioritize that subject, and that's okay. Number four is to give your child some creative time. Sometimes we can be so focused on some of the academic subjects and we forget about some of the other things like the arts and crafts or the music element. So, if you can give your child some creative time without standing over them and giving them this instruction and this instruction and this worksheet and that worksheet, allow them to create things. My children, they can create things out of trash. It can be something as simple as tear apart an empty cereal box and give your child some paint or crayons or scissors or glue, something that they can experiment with. It can be something like Play Doh or listening to certain music and drawing a picture while they're listening to that music and appreciating that music. It's not lost time. Sometimes my children will even pull out their journal and draw a picture about what's happened that day and then write about it. Well, guess what? That's not just art, that's not just reflecting on what they've done, but they're also forming sentences and practicing handwriting. Number five, watch a documentary. I know, exciting, right? Now, sometimes my children will complain about watching a documentary, but that's usually only when they have in their mind something else they would rather watch, like a TV show or a movie. But plenty of times, my children do enjoy watching documentaries. There are some kid friendly ones out there that are about animals or about the weather. You can find these on common streaming services. You can even find some YouTube channels that are specifically geared for children or specifically geared for homeschoolers. And if you subscribe to that channel, your child can watch some of those videos. They're a little bit shorter, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and they can watch those on repeat. They're still learning, they're getting exposed to vocabulary that may be, history based or science based. Don't think that similar things don't happen in a school day. We know that when children go to a school, sometimes they have a substitute for the day, and sometimes what they end up watching is just a movie, not even a documentary. So you have full permission to do this at home when you have a day that has had something unplanned happen. Number six, another option is to clean. Now, you may not have all day to do this, but something that we like to do is have a cleaning blitz. I might tell the children, we're just going to clean for 20 minutes. This is your short list of things I need you to do. Pick up the clothes off your floor, put the toys away, and sweep. Or we may even take that out to the car and just say, we're just going to declutter the car for 20 minutes. I'm setting a timer, all hands on deck. We're going to do this. And that can help you have a smoother day the next day when you're starting fresh. Number seven is rest. It's okay to rest when you've had a rough day, and you definitely don't want to have a series of rough days. So, resting can help your next day go a little bit better. There have been some days where my children were really tired from some big days they'd had prior to that day. And school just wasn't happening. The attitudes were incredibly terrible. They were very young. They were crying. And we just quit everything. I read a book to them and made them lay down and have nap time. And they were all out within a 5 to 10 minute period. That tells me that that rest was needed. And I think this is something missing with our young children who are enrolled in school these days. I taught just down the hallway from kindergartners when I was teaching in public school, and I would hear all these meltdowns. And as I had my own child who was that age, I kept thinking, wow, what if they just had nap time or rest time like they did when I was in kindergarten? Would they have as many meltdowns? Usually, when my children get up from a rest time, they have a much better attitude and they're much more likely to get busy on some things that they need to do. Now, what else can you think of when you've had your homeschool day messed up? Leave a comment below. If you get to talking to many homeschool parents, you'll find that everyone has their own style and different things work for different families. If you haven't yet checked out my new survival guide for the homeschool family, be sure to get that. I will leave a link in the comment section below. It is absolutely free. Have you heard of my 5 quick tips to immediately help your struggling reader? I'll leave a link for that in the description below. These are things you can implement today to make a difference in your child's reading. And have you heard of my 2 courses, A Busy Mom's Guide to Teaching Your Child to Read and Next Step Reading? This is going to get your child reading independently through these elementary years without even having to hire a tutor. Be sure to check those out. I will leave more information in the description below. Remember, parents, you are your child's most influential teacher.